Oh, hello.
Oh, hello.
It's Charming Disaster, and
Welcome
to the Quarantine Livestream.
Livestream.
It's been over a year since our first Quarantine Livestream.
Feels like 100.
It feels like 1,000.
Mm.
But we're so glad to be here with you, doing this thing again with you, because you are the silver lining of this apocalypse.
So true.
We see Mike and Fred and Sarah and Catherine and Misty tuning in. We are going to Twitch as well as Facebook and YouTube tonight, so who knows what will happen?
Who knows who we'll meet?
We see Katie and Kim and Sarah, other Sarah, Josh. So welcome everybody. As people are finding their seats, you can take a moment to share the link to this live stream if you're on Facebook out to your timeline to show your people where to go. And yes, as a reminder, if you are you feeling all right? Is it
I'm feeling fine.
Is it parasites?
It's my epiglottis.
Oh, okay. Let's see, we see Sierra and Carrie and Matt and Tim and Joe and Eve and Vesuvio and Brandon and Judy. So many lovely people joining us. If you are new, or even if you're not new, this is a donation-based show. What does that mean? It means that it is a gift economy. It means if you are in a position to support this show financially and keep us in guitar strings and feather headdresses and
cocktails,
recording engineers, there are lots of good ways to do that. We have Venmo, CashApp, PayPal, virtual tickets, and you can always go on our Bandcamp and get some music or get some merch.
And CashApp is new.
No
one's used it yet.
No one's used it yet. No.
Maybe it's not a thing.
I don't know. We thought we'd try it because of season 3, new things.
Yeah, new thing.
And if you're not in a financial position to support the show that way, that is totally fine. In that case, it is our gift to you.
Yes.
We are so grateful to all of you for being here and being part of us. Also, special shout out to Paula for initiating a weekly raffle drawing for members of the Society of the Mysterious Hand. It just, if I had a heart here, it would be so warmed by this.
I think it's in a box over here.
It's somewhere. I don't know.
It's in one of those cases.
Yeah. So again, it makes us so glad to see you playing nicely together, even when we're not there. It's so nice. It's like throwing a successful party where you can just sort of stand back for a moment
and see your friends talking.
Yeah. Remember parties? Inside. With
other people.
Yeah, with more than one person at a time. It's going to come back. It's going to come back. All right, so shall we begin with our standard opening ritual?
Yes. May I draw?
Yes, please.
We have drawn the 4 of Cups.
The 4 of Cups. What is happening in this card?
Persons being offered a mysterious beverage
by the hand in the cloud. And that person appears to be kind of dissatisfied with their situation. Perhaps they're dissatisfied with their body. Perhaps
their soul.
Which raises an interesting question.
Where does the soul reside?
If you have a soul, you've probably wondered about this.
Opinions over the centuries have varied.
The Hebrew and Greek words for soul connected to the breath.
Aristotle believed it was connected to the heart.
And other ancient philosophers said it was in other organs, like the liver or the lungs.
Weird. Or even spread out throughout the whole body.
Gross.
Disgusting.
Descartes theorized it was located in the pituitary. No, I'm sorry, the pineal gland. Something else is in the pituitary gland.
We don't know. No one wants to know what's in there. Today, we are reasonably certain that the soul is located on the bottom of the foot.
But scientists are still working on this important question.
And later, our special guest, Dr. Brandy Schillace, is going to tell us more about the cutting-edge research on this frontier.
But first, let's play a song.
I think it's time.
All right. All right. I'm gonna turn on the audio setting though. That makes it sound better. I know. I remember
Good
to do it just in
call.
the nick of time too.
I was just about to sound really good.
Yeah. All right. Here we go.
Yeah.
Go out on the marshes, pick the pieces up. They chopped you into little bits I gathered.
Point yourself with myrrh, and walking through serrated grasses, close the gap that's come between us. Lord of love, dead man, resurrection, twin sister, empress, crying Isis.
Better call the priestess, crack the cedar chest, hook out his heart and wrap them in white linen.
Jackal-headed doctor, cut the bandages. The queen is weeping tears into the river. Lord of love, dead man, resurrection, twin sister, empress, crying Isis.
True story.
Last week we did part 2 of a science experiment because we really embrace science personally and on the show, and we have lab coats. For instance, we're serious about this.
Yeah, we embrace experiments even more than science.
It's true. And so if you've been with us the last couple of weeks, you may recall that we have a theory, a hypothesis regarding how to prevent scurvy with limoncello. And so I think we ought to check on the limoncello.
Jar.
Yeah, and see if we have achieved peak lemoniness.
Here it is.
There it is, the specimen jar. Oh, it's...
Pretty soon it'll be a brain.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Soon. Yeah, it looks a lot like a brain in a jar. So, scurvy, very serious scourge of our modern age. And a lot of people are working very hard on curing solving the scurvy problem. And this is our contribution. It's lemon peels and vodka. It's very lemony smelling.
Very fragrant.
Mm.
It's delicious.
I feel like it could be a little more lemony, though.
Yeah. It's not quite ready.
Yeah. We're going to give it another week.
Give it another week.
Yeah.
Great.
But I feel like we're definitely on the right track with this research. And I'm really confident that we're going to solve this one.
Yeah. Or get drunk trying.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Back in the specimen shelf.
All right. Watch the... Okay.
Watch what?
All right.
So, what's happening now?
I think we should play another song.
I think so. All right.
All right. Shovel in the backseat,
Secrets in the front. Try to keep your shit together. Don't open up the trunk. Fly under the radar. Keep your profile low. Driving to Idaho. Driving to Idaho. Driving to Idaho. Something might have happened you don't talk about.
Make sure that the taillight isn't burned out.
Better watch out. Better take it slow. Driving to Idaho. Driving to Idaho. Driving to Idaho. Listen for the siren, watch for flashing lights. Stick to the speed limit, travel day and night. What doesn't hurt, choose what you don't know. Driving to Idaho. Driving to Idaho. Driving to Idaho. Did you need to go too far? Did you do what you had to do? Make a wish on a shooting star and hope it's not aiming at you. Shouting at the windshield, rain is coming down.
Just another day till the money runs out.
Take a deep breath, it's all under control. Driving to Idaho. 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 Driving to Idaho.
So in normal times, we spend a fair amount of time on the road, on tour. In a car my parents let us borrow. Thank you, Mom and Dad. I hope you're watching. And we make friends in far-flung places that we get to a couple times a year maybe. And so when we know that we're going to be rolling back into town, we like to reach out and let them know. You know, we have like our email list and we have our social media, but you know, we'll also, you know, when we have like special pals, we'll often send them a personal message. And sometimes it happens on Twitter or on an email or on a text message, and we'll say, you know, we're going to be in Cleveland. Hope you can make it to the show. This is what you do a lot of as a touring musician, actually, is texting people and saying, hey, we're going to be in town. Hope you can make it to the show.
Can we stay at your house?
Yeah, that's...
Maybe.
We're going to ask you that at some point. So we had one of these experiences with a friend whom we had met at a previous show in Cleveland, and we reached out to say, hey, Brandy, we're going to be in town. Hope you can make it to the show. And Brandy said, oh, I can't make it. I'm so sorry. I'm going to be driving to Idaho. And we were like, she's going to do a murder. Like, that sounds like a...
That sounds evil.
It sounds like a euphemism. Like, oh, like I'm going to be driving to Idaho. So that was the genesis of this song.
Yeah.
And the person, the Brandy in question, is our friend Dr. Brandy Schillace.
Sorry, we're giving you away. I mean, I hope that crime was untraceable. But
she knows what she's doing. It's not her first rodeo.
yeah, she's equipped. Yeah.
So Dr. Brandy Schillace is a medical historian who writes nonfiction books about things like death and dying, science and steampunk, and most recently, the history of human head transplants. Her books have been reviewed in Science Magazine and the New York Times and the New Yorker, and you might yourselves have even seen her on the Travel Channel's Mysteries at the Museum. And she lives near Cleveland, Ohio, where we were lucky enough to share a stage with her in person a few years back. So we are delighted to be reunited here on the non-corporeal plane. I am going to just adjust our echo cancellation settings so that it doesn't get crazy
Might get a little crazy.
you welcome her to the screen as we summon her from the void. Dr. Brandy Schillace, we summon you.
Whoa!
I've arrived.
You have arrived.
There's still a little flame behind you.
Yeah, it's funny how that works. I take a little bit of fire with me everywhere I go.
That sounds convenient. Well, let's start with a question for you. What are you drinking? And we will also open this question to all the nice people in the comments.
Well, I started off with a gin martini, and the thing is, it's gone, and I just wish I had a scotch. I wish that a scotch would just fly up out of... Oh, yes, that's kind of what I was...
How did you
Oh.
do that?
So I know it's a thing. It's part of the fire. So I'm having a nice smoky Loch Lomond scotch tonight.
Sophisticated.
Very nice. Well, Jeff, what are we drinking tonight?
We have these cocktails that we've made with, I believe it's rye, our favorite brown alcohol. We have rye, sherry, and...
Well, let's taste it and see if it's missing anything.
Oh, and it has little cherries.
It's good, but I think it could use a secret, special, additional spirit.
Oh, it's a good thing you asked.
Mm-hmm.
We have some Christian Brothers brandy. Yes.
Brandy makes everything better.
That's what we've been saying.
That's what we've been saying. So, Brandy, these cocktails are in your honor. Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, that's much better.
Oh, thank God you're
so
here.
Good. So the cherries are actually brandied cherries also.
Oh, very nice. I used to make those.
Any cherries you make are brandied cherries, right?
That's a good point. I should market that.
Yeah, you can brandy anything.
I could. This is a brandied chair right now.
That's right. Brandied chair.
I want to point out that we're kind of wearing matching outfits.
I just noticed that. Yeah. It's good with the buttons. It's good with the
Yeah.
I feel like this way we could be admirals potentially in a ship, should the need arise. If there was scurvy and it took out the captain.
Sure,
Yes.
or an airship.
Yeah, one's in
airship,
the air,
that's
one's on the
principle,
water.
various sorts. That's right. Exactly. All
Yeah.
that would be totally perfect.
Well, do you want to tell us a little bit about what we're seeing on screen behind you before we let you regale us with?
I would love to. So we're in my library. And I'm very lucky to have a library. I got it by ditching the guest room.
Who
It's
needs
not that I
guests?
don't, it's not that I don't welcome guests. It's just now you have to sleep in the library. So behind me here, you'll see my phrenology head. Maybe if I just tilt the screen up slightly, you can see him up there.
Oh, nice.
And next to that, I actually have an apothecary garden. That's a poison garden. Let's be real.
Who doesn't in this show? I feel like
who doesn't?
Yeah.
Well, it all started when I had a volunteer plant just appear out of nowhere, and I took it down to the herb garden facility, and I asked what it was, and a lovely lady with lots of crystals and very long hair told me that it was nightshade, essentially, and I had a volunteer nightshade.
Mm-hmm.
She said I was chosen, and I thought we could add more things. So I basically expanded. I built a sort of medieval apothecary garden in my backyard because the deer are smart enough not to eat poison plants. And then I make tinctures. This is feverfew. I don't know if you can see that.
Oh, lovely.
Feverfew.
Yeah. And I have a wormwood tincture that I've made. No absinthe. I haven't figured that out yet, but not that I'm against it. So that's that. And then, of course, we've got all sorts of books and accoutrements and my lucky brass dog. It doubles as a weapon. I mean, if you needed one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just hypothetically.
Hypothetically. If you were like going to drive to Idaho and you didn't have a shovel.
There you go.
Right. Well, that all seems lovely. I just want to share some of the comments. We have some Deadly Nightshade fans in the
very
crowd.
Nice.
We already have some folks. We are going to be opening up the floor to questions after Brandy tells us some things about human head transplants. Brandy, would you like to take the floor and regale us with some science?
I would love to share with you some science, which is definitely stranger than any fiction that I have ever actually encountered.
Wonderful.
So I'd like to share with you guys a little bit about this book, which is Mr. Humble and Dr. Butcher. And I know that title seems kind of, out there, but I did not give this man these names. These are names this gentleman had. So it is about a man of science, and he wanted to transplant a brain. And I realize that sounds like science fiction, and it probably should. And in fact, it inspired partly the second X-Files movie. And Frank Spotnitz, in fact, when he was researching that movie, creator of X-Files, producer of X-Files, had his folks looking on Google, researching some things. And one of them came back and was like, we might have a problem. Somebody did this. And Frank Spotnitz got on a private jet and flew to Cleveland to meet Dr. Robert White. Now, Dr. Robert White was a neurosurgeon, but also a neuroscientist. And this is very important to this story because he wanted to perform brain surgeries. He did thousands and thousands of these. He saved children from brain tumors. He invented all kinds of fascinating techniques for cooling the brain so that it wasn't so greedy for oxygen, which meant you could slow down and operated on it more slowly. All sorts of things that you would expect a neurosurgeon to do. He also was a neuroscientist who was interested in pushing the limits of what science could do. And this was happening during the Cold War. So some of his interest was really peaked in the 1950s because he was at the facility that performed the first successful kidney transplant. And they did this on twins because at the time they didn't have the anti-rejection drugs that we have now. And what he thought to himself in this moment, and I love this because this is not what I would have thought in this moment. He thought, wow, if we can remove a kidney and transplant it to another body, what if we just did all of the organs at one time by moving the whole body over to a new head? A body transplant, but also a head transplant. Now, you might think that sounds like no one would take that seriously, but this is in the 50s and 60s, and a Russian scientist named Vladimir Demikov had released a video of a surgically altered dog. He basically created a two-headed dog, and they named it Cerberus. And this two-headed dog lived, and for a while anyway, and both of the heads could drink milk, and they couldn't both wag their tail because only Only one of them had a tail at that point, but they could lick up milk and they could pant and they could, do other dog things with your head. And White saw that and thought, wow, if the Russians can do it with dogs, I bet we could do it with monkeys. So he begins this incredible journey towards figuring out if you can transplant the head of one animal onto the body of another animal. And I know that sounds like, why would you possibly want to do that? But he did have some reasons. One of the reasons is he wanted to isolate the brain to find out if your brain could outlive your body. Where are you, your personality, right? So he thought, what if the brain is the soul? And I should mention that Dr. White was Catholic. What if your brain is the soul? Then if your brain outlives the body, it's also kind of proof that your soul outlives the body. Very interesting experiment to be trying. The other thing he wanted to prove was that consciousness existed in the brain, irrespective of whether it was inside a head. So, the very first thing he ends up doing successfully is he takes out the living brain. And I think we can all envision a brain. You kind of think of it, it looks sort of like a walnut in shape, and it sounds very clinical. But how do you get one out of a body if the body's still alive? So what he did is he took a larger monkey and he used it as like a life support system. And he fed blood from that monkey to a smaller monkey. And then they slowly carved away the body from that monkey's head. And they severed the final two vertebrae, the body falls away, and they're sustaining a head on the blood from this larger monkey. And then they set about taking away the face and the skull until they have this naked bulb of a brain. And it's sitting on a little dish, and this apparatus looks strangely like a lava lamp, and it's being flushed with blood, and it's pink, and it's not a dead brain, it's a live brain. And they had it hooked up to electrodes, and the EEG starts picking away, just making little lines on graph paper, because the brain wasn't just alive, it was also still thinking. And that's pretty astonishing stuff. But not all of his colleagues believed him. A lot of them were like, no, that's not thoughts. Can't be, right? So he developed the idea that what if you transplanted the entire head so that you could prove after it woke up that it could move its eyes and its nose and its mouth. So that's what gave him the idea to take Monkey A's head and put it on the body of Monkey B. So Monkey B's body, Monkey A's head. Like that. They perform the surgery. It takes hours and hours. And then they wait. And they wait. And finally, the head wakes up. It wakes up attached to a completely different body, which is actually serving to flush the brain with all the oxygenated blood that it needs to survive. It's paralyzed, of course, you've severed the spinal column. But the head wakes up. The monkey looks around the room. It sees Dr. White. It didn't like Dr. White. As a matter of fact, I don't think many of the monkeys were very fond of Dr. White. It tries to bite him. It's angry and upset. And Dr. White's own word, it's a very unhappy monkey. Now, this upset a lot of people, particularly animal rights activists, who were like, why are you doing this? And you'd think, yes, what would be the purpose of this if you're not going to perform a human head transplant? But that's the kicker. He did want to try to perform a human head transplant. And while that sounds equally strange, like why would you want this to happen? You'd be paralyzed. There'd be all sorts of reasons not to do it. But he had some good reasons. He had a patient named Craig Vidovitz, who was already paralyzed. He'd been paralyzed by a diving accident when he was a teen. And as is the case with many tetraplegic patients, his organs had begun to shut down, even though he was still a relatively young man. And to Craig, there was every reason to try this surgery. He had a life to live. And he got very upset when people said there was no reason to do a surgery like this, because in his eyes, just because he was tetraplegic wasn't a reason not to try and save his life. He had a wife, he had kids, he had his own business, he traveled. So he volunteered to be the first human head transplant and to have Dr. White perform it. Now they just needed a body donor, which you can get because of brain death, which again, Dr. White was quite instrumental in working through the definitions of brain death too, because that's kind of important if you want to start using other people's organs to make sure that they're not really alive anymore. So there was a few accident victims, people who were brain dead but whose bodies were still in reasonably good condition. And Dr. White had intended to remove Craig Vitovitz's head and put it on a new body to save his life, essentially. Now, the surgery never actually happens because you have to have things like permission and money. And people get really upset if you go around taking heads off of things. And so it wasn't actually something that the larger public was quite ready to accept as being something that was worth spending time and money on. So it never actually goes ahead. It never actually goes ahead. But the other important thing about that is that we know, weirdly, strangely, technically, it's possible to transplant a head. But just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. So again, all of that comes from Mr. Humble and Dr. Butcher.
That is a really good takeaway. Not doing things, like maybe it's not a good idea to do things just because you can.
Has there been any more development about this?
There has. So it just so happens that a gentleman by the name, another neurosurgeon by the name of Sergio Canavero, he's from Italy, wanted to perform a human head transplant as well, basing it on Dr. White's work. In fact, he gives a lot of credit for Dr. White, who I should mention, Dr. White was a very big fan of the book Frankenstein.
As you would be.
As you would be, exactly. He called him, but the two names, but I didn't call the book Dr. Frankenstein. I called it Mr. Humble and Dr. Butcher because he gave himself the nickname Mr. Humble, which I think is a bit tongue-in-cheek. If you give yourself the name Mr. Humble, often it's a little bit of a joke. Dr. Butcher is what he was called by animal rights activist groups who said, this is a terrible idea. Why would you want to do this, to any animal, including humans? But he really loved the Frankenstein story. And he thought that Victor Frankenstein was not a cautionary tale. He thought that he was definitely 100% the hero of that story. And that is right,
That is an interesting takeaway from Frankenstein. As the poor monster floats away on an iceberg, damned and didn't ask to be born, and everybody hates him, and
maybe he didn't finish the book. Maybe he didn't finish it.
No, he actually emblazoned one of his medical bags with the words Dr. Frankenstein and dressed up as Frankenstein for Halloween at different times.
Did he yell at people, it's Frankenstein? Frankenstein.
It's Frankenstein. Frankenstein. Actually, it was really funny to me that funny is probably the wrong word. Unusual. That the reason he thought that Victor Frankenstein was the hero is he felt that science shouldn't be limited. And yet he was a deeply Catholic, very religious man. And he was friends with Pope John Paul II. And he helped to set up the Vatican Council of Bioethics. So when I set up the book to show that this gentleman sort of has two sides to himself, I'm not joking about that. He's this very religious, 10 children, good Catholic, saves lots of people, saves children's lives, invents techniques. Actually, my father had open heart surgery, and they used perfusion, which is the rapid cooling of the brain, on my dad. And so, we have many things to thank Dr. White for, and he wanted to take the heads off of things.
Wow.
Like you do.
Well, I would love to open this up to some questions from the audience. And I'm actually looking for someone made a comment in the comments. It was actually about the limoncello. Oh, here we go. And it seems like kind of appropriate to this conversation.
Good point.
Sometimes you have to go too far to understand where the limits ought to be.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I mean, you have the patient who wanted to have the surgery done, Craig, was actually a very outspoken advocate that science should push the boundaries, and was, he was someone who said basically, we like the outcomes of science. We just don't want to look too carefully at the way we get there, right? But everybody likes it if you succeed. Then all of a sudden it's fine,
Right.
Well, we invite you listeners, viewers, to ask some questions. There's a little bit of a lag between when we say things here and when people hear them out on social media. So we can enjoy the awkward pause. Or
do you have a question?
Do you have a question you want to ask?
I asked my question, but let's see.
Would you consider a head transplant yourself, or is there a situation where you would consider it for yourself or loved one?
I was almost more fascinated in the book by the fact that the brain can outlive the human body. More so than the head transplant stuff. I thought that's a fascinating thought to consider, isn't it? Because we have the definition of brain death based on the fact that there's no brain activity. By the way, that definition is pretty loosey-goosey. There's not actually an official definition. There's some legal definitions, but they change depending on what state you're in and what country you're in. And you could be declared alive in one country and dead in another one. It's complicated. But we say no EEG, no reflexes, right? That we know that's... Does the opposite hold true? So for instance, if your brain is thinking, but you have no body left, are you alive?
Right.
And that my brain just kind of, I have trouble getting my head around that one. So some of me wonders what it would be like if you were just a brain. What kinds of things would you think? Without any sensory input, would it be horrible or would it be like amazing? I really don't know.
Well, this could be one of these simulations that we're in. We're all just floating brains in a jar. All our sensory input is just hallucination.
Yeah, this is it.
This could be it.
It's very Matrixy, right? It takes you right into science fiction. It takes you into the Matrix. And you're like, maybe we're just plugged in and it's just blips and zeros and ones.
We can't know.
We can't know.
We can't know.
I've been watching some French TV recently because I'm like an intermediate level French speaker, and so like doing French TV with French subtitles is like that's my new pandemic hobby. And there are some bad French TV shows, including I haven't actually started watching this one, but I watched the preview, and I think it's just about body transplants, basically, like consciousness transplants. And but it's illegal. But the cop who is assigned to
is this a documentary?
I don't know. I haven't. Like I said,
figured it out.
This is nonfiction. I swear it is.
Anyway, there's a French TV show that seems to be about exactly this. So I will post about it once I figure out what it was called, because it was late at night and I was just sort of scrolling through all the French stuff.
That's fascinating.
Hey, we have some questions from the audience. How about Sierra asks, was the monkey the only successful head transplant? Oh, and actually, we're going to give you the floor again for this.
Okay.
Yeah.
No. So they had several different monkeys that they did this to, and the primates were the top thing that they managed to achieve. So there had also been some head transplants or brain transplants for dogs and for mice and rats. The dog brain transplant was peculiar. So you had the two-headed dog that was happening in Moscow. But in addition to that, White actually transplanted the brain of one dog into the neck cavity of another dog and then sewed it back up. And then they were able to test the brain waves of this brain that was living inside the neck of a dog. And it turns out that the body of the dog didn't reject the brain. So apparently brains are not rejectimenta. Like you don't need, the blood-brain barrier stops you from rejecting that organ. So in theory, the whole Frankenstein thing, like if Igor had actually brought the correct, not the abnormal brain, and they stuck it, like apparently that would work. Like the brain body would just go, new brain, not a problem. So they did do dogs, and they did rats and they did mice. And right now, I'm going to forget his, I'll have to get back to you on the exact name, but Sergio Canavero is working with a Chinese scientist who is Ren, and I forget his last name. And he is doing mice head transplants because mice are weirdly, they kind of overcome paralysis issues more easily than other animals for reasons that I've read about but don't completely understand. And they have done some successful mouse head transplants where they take like a black mouse and a white mouse and they put the black head on the white one and the white one on the... There's some really interesting photographs.
Wow. And mouse heads are so tiny. That must be...
Yeah. Can you imagine? That's very small stitches.
Very precise.
Tweezers.
Mike asks, how long does the brain stay alive after death?
So hard question to answer because technically you might not be dead if your brain's still alive. But some of the brains that, because of supercooling, I mentioned this briefly, but I didn't go all the way into it. Perfusion is, so supercooling of the brain, hypothermia, so therapeutic hypothermia, which is something White had worked on for years and years and is still used today. It cools your brain down so much that it doesn't need as much oxygen to survive. So it's almost like stasis, or the way like hibernation works, for instance. And there's an anecdote actually in the book about White taking a dog's brain down super cooled and then pumping all the blood out of the dog so that it's got no blood. It's lying on this table, and he's invited a priest into the laboratory. This actually happened. I know it doesn't sound like it did. And he lays a picnic blanket out, and is like eating his lunch over this dead dog. And this priest walks in and he says to the priest, "Is this dog dead?" And the priest is kind of very disturbed and like, "Yes, and also why?" And White says, "Can you perform last rites on this dog?" And it's a very awkward situation ensues. Ultimately, White then puts all the blood back in the dog, warms the dog up, and the dog gets up and walks away. And so it's just an example to say a hypercooled brain can survive a long time without the usual things that a brain would need to keep it going. And so if you have a brain and it's isolated and it's being fed with blood and it's supercooled, you could keep these for quite a long time. The particular one that I mentioned in the book, the longest lived monkey transplant was 9 days, and some of the isolated brains only lived for like 48 hours.
Wow. All right, I think we have time for one more question, which comes from Misty, who asks, is this research continuing now? How can we get in on this?
I get very strange emails, I should say. But somewhat, yes. So you have different stages of the research. The perfusion brain cooling research going all over the place, being very useful in science. In fact, Dr. White was nominated for a Nobel Prize for that. There's also people working on like, can you skip broken spinal cords? So like BrainGate, which is it's a universities and VA hospitals working together, trying to figure out if you can stimulate electronically directly from the brain to the muscles that are paralyzed and get those working. And that's kind of related. The actual brain, head, body transplant, as far as I know, Sergio Canavero is the only one who's still kind of investigating that. But he's run into a lot of roadblocks. I mean, people are not keen.
Why?
Yeah, weird, right? I believe that he ran into some big problems with the university. He's left that university. I think he was working in China for a while. Not all countries have the same rules about things, bodies and heads that you can do stuff to. White actually was given one opportunity to do a head transplant years earlier in Russia. Not in Russia, sorry, in the Soviet Union. And it was to prisoners. And he said, no, that's unethical. So, there was a line to draw there for him. So he did not perform even a head transplant, even though he was technically given leeway at one point in his career.
Wow. Well, if people would like to read your book or find out more about your work or just follow you on social media, henchperson Dan is going to share links in the chat. There's a link to brandyschillace.com. There's a link to bschillace on Twitter. And henchperson Dan, if you would share those links as 3 separate things, that would be great so that people can find them more easily. And there's also a link specifically to buy the book, and that link is to our bookshop page, which has a lot of recommendations for reading material, and this book is at the top of the list right now.
I could just add, if you want a signed copy, I have a bookshop I work through in Cleveland who is on my website. So if you need a signature, they're there.
Awesome.
Cool.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. It's been such a delight. We are planning to come back to Cleveland in the fall in person. So we will definitely let you know when that happens. And you can let us know if you're, driving to Idaho or whatever.
with my pseudo weapon bronze dog.
Yes. Oh, and Mike asks, can we buy her book on Amazon? Yes, this book is available in all of the places, all the major places. All the places. Yep. Cool. All right.
There's an audiobook as well.
Oh, fabulous. Is it you reading it, or is it like a
It's not, but it's an actress who's better than me.
I find that hard to believe. All right. Well, we are going to banish you back into the void from whence you came. And thank you so much for joining us.
Cheers to you all.
Oh, dear.
Oh, dear. So we decided that we would try to explore some scientific experimentation ourselves. And it's going pretty well so far.
I think so. Look at it. Check it out.
I feel pretty good.
My brain feels alive.
Yeah, I mean, I feel pretty fine. The only thing is that
we can't reach our instruments. We're supposed to play a song next.
We obviously did not really think this through.
Dan,
Henchperson Dan, will you
will you put up the
will you roll the technical difficulties screen,
but
please?
Of course.
Thank you.
He's also disembodied.
Please stand by.
All right, well, we're back. Whew, that was a wild ride. And the story of how we got our bodies back is it's too long to tell.
Yeah, tune in next time.
Yeah. But Brandy, this song is for you.
It's for you. The thing.
Mm-hmm.
Wake up one day and here you are. You're just a brain inside a jar. You need some air. You go outside. 10,000 heads are floating by. Disembodied head, disembodied head, disembodied, disembodied head, disembodied head, disembodied. Now what you get is what you see. You're on your own, got nobody. You tell yourself that you'll get by. You have an active inner life. Disembodied head, disembodied head, disembodied, disembodied head, disembodied head, disembodied. It's nice to try to find advice that you can get behind. Put it on ice, you might decide it takes more time to change your mind. They say success is worth the wait. You close your eyes, you meditate. The more you seek, you come to find all that you are is in your mind. Disembodied head, disembodied head, disembodied, disembodied head, go disembodied head, go disembodied. It's nice to try to find advice that you can get behind. Put it on ice, you might decide it takes more time to change your mind. Disembodied head, you're disembodied. Disembodied head, you're disembodied. Disembodied head, you're disembodied. head. Disembodied head, disembodied head, disembodied, disembodied head, your disembodied head, your disembodied.
True story.
Mm.
Obviously.
I'm gonna turn our
Crap.
no, we forgot to change the audio setting, but it's fine. It just means that next time we play, it's gonna sound
So much better.
even better.
It's hard to change that audio setting with no hands.
It's hard. A lot of things are hard with no hands. Like
Nobody.
Nobody
knows.
Now we are very excited to have received a message for Professor Bellows. This is the Quarantine Livestream advice column, which is a new feature, a new segment on this show. Professor Bellows is a taxidermied turtle that we received from many of you some weeks back. And Professor Bellows has kindly offered to dispense advice. If people would like it, you can just email secretary at charmingdisaster.com. Attention, Professor Bellows.
Attention, Professor Bellows.
And so we're going to read... We're going to read one of the...
I'll read the letter.
Okay.
And
then Professor Bellows will answer.
Professor
okay,
will
great.
answer.
Yeah, all right.
Dear Professor Bellows, hello from Nashville, Professor Bellows. Last week I was playing Power Hour with my boyfriend, and I had to get up to urgently use the restroom. As I was rounding around the Christmas tree, still up in early March, I collapsed over my left foot. It didn't hurt that night, but I woke up at 6 a.m. worried that I'd broke my left foot. There was only mild swelling and bruising, but the left lateral aspect of the foot, not the ankle, very important, was very tender to palpitations. I'm 90% sure that if I did break it, there'd be essentially no intervention with the exception of a boot and watchful waiting. Should I go to urgent care and get an x-ray, or should I just ignore it and hope it goes away? I have health insurance, and I am a nurse practitioner. Love, mangled metatarsal.
That's a great question. That's a great question for a weekly advice column, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well,
let's see.
Let's give it up for Professor Bellows. Dear Mangled, allow me to begin by reminding you that I am a professor, not a doctor, and thus not technically qualified to dispense medical advice. Notwithstanding that detail, I am happy to offer the following recommendations. It has been 6 days since I received your letter, so I hope you are still alive. If you are, and your foot is still in pain, you may wish to consider getting that x-ray. Did you know that x-rays allow you to see the skeleton inside your own body? Unless, of course, you are covered in some kind of exoskeleton or armored plates, in which case, good luck. Alternatively, if you are able to simply gnaw off the limb that is troubling you, that may be your best course of action. However, there is a risk of phantom limb, which may occur even after your new foot grows in. And, of course, the old foot may grow an entirely new body, which you would then have to fight. And how will we know if the winner is really you? As I mentioned, I am not a medical doctor, and you should not sue me after following this advice. Please accept my well wishes for you and/or your foot and/or your other body. Sincerely, Professor Bellows.
Sage advice.
Sage advice. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought about the phantom limb thing, but that can be a real problem.
I guess if you get a head transplant, you can have phantom head.
And phantom body.
Phantom body.
For both. Yeah,
maybe that's how phantoms are made.
Maybe that is how phantoms are made. Now, of course, this is all different if you're a sea slug. If you're a sea slug, No
All bets are
problemo.
off.
No problemo with Fierce Sea Slug. Well, I think we ought to play a request. So we're gonna put it out to you, listeners.
Yeah, we pushed enough stuff on you. It's your time to.
Yeah, it's your time.
Contribute.
I mean, we'll pick one, so it's still kind of up to us, but
Don't tell them that.
it's kind of up to you because you're gonna limit the choices for us. I'm just gonna drink this cocktail. Oh, what is this cocktail called, by the way?
Is it called the Disembodied Head?
It's called the Disembodied Head.
I think it is.
Yeah, I think that the cherry in the bottom represents the disembodied
The
head.
soul.
The spirit is the, you know. Mm.
Very good. Didn't think of that.
All right. Well, we're just experiencing this moment.
Yeah, I'm gonna turn on the thing.
Oh yeah, turn on the thing. I think I
wait.
turned on the thing.
Oh, okay.
It's on.
I just want.
Yeah, we're gonna
What
sound
about
really.
this? Do we want that?
I don't think it matters. There's only one microphone.
How about stereo?
Yeah, but okay, sure. We'll see. They'll tell us.
Is that better?
Yeah, I think that's a lot better. Well, nobody's requested any songs yet, so we could play the song we planned and then play the request
Okay,
for the
sure.
last song.
Sure.
All right.
Oh.
Oh, wait. Oh.
This just in.
This just in. Yeah, we could do
We
that
can do
one.
that.
Yeah.
Do we know that one?
Yeah, I think we know it. Only one way to find out.
All the same.
Secretary says you've got a meeting.
And the secretary's always right.
You don't know what you'd do without her.
And you can't even remember when you met her,
But she runs your life.
She keeps the wolves away when you most need it.
And you need it more than yesterday.
The pencil in her hair is always
But
sharp.
nothing sharper than the look she gives you when you try to make her stay. Secretary knows your weaknesses. A dozen roses, sweetnesses. No more than she deserves from you. Tell her to tell you what to do. You don't know where she goes when she leaves you. Even if you did, who would believe you?
Shouting on the phone is getting frequent.
They're shaky and you need a shave.
Secretary steps up for a minute.
Hands you whiskey, razor, aspirin, and the order for your wife's bouquet. Secretary knows your weaknesses. A dozen roses, sweetnesses. No more than she deserves from you. Tell her to tell you what to do. The smell of smoke is always on her breath. Though you've never seen her smoke a single cigarette. Did you get the secretary's memo?
Pay attention, cause it's gonna hurt.
The secretary says she'll take a letter.
Did you let her take the thing that's beating
Underneath your
starched white shirt?
Secretary knows your weaknesses. A dozen roses, sweetnesses. No more than she deserves from you. Tell her to tell you what to do. Is she on your side or taking over? She'll eat your heart if you tell her you love her. Secretary knows your weaknesses. A dozen roses, sweetnesses. No more than she deserves from you. Secretary knows your weaknesses.
Secretary knows.
Secretary knows.
Secretary knows.
Secretary that was, of course, Secretary from our first album, Love, Crime, and Other Trouble.
It's different than Secretary Knows, which is a condition.
It's very tragic.
Yes, but...
Sierra asks a question. When are you releasing Spooky? I can't remember the second word. It's action. Spooky action, which is a physics term. Spooky action at a distance, which describes some crazy shit that subatomic particles do.
Entangled particles.
And my dad was telling me the other day that it was actually Albert Einstein who coined the term spooky action at a distance, but it was in a kind of like dismissive manner, as in like, it's sort of in the God doesn't play dice with the universe way. Like Einstein was prone to making offhand statements saying like, well, like that wouldn't happen. Yeah. I mean, he also invented the theory of relativity. I mean, obviously he was right about a lot of stuff, but he was interestingly wrong about a couple of things, in my opinion, one of which is the entangled particles thing, where, you know, spooky, like that could never happen. That would be spooky action at a distance. It would be like, and Dad, if I'm mangling this, you'll tell me, I'm sure, tomorrow.
You'll be in trouble.
But the other thing that Einstein said was God doesn't play dice with the universe, which is open. It's subject to some debate.
He plays jacks with the universe.
They
play jacks.
Meaning, like, things aren't just totally random, but, like, some people think it's totally random, and that is also a legitimate point of view. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying. It's not, like, nihilism. What did you put in this? That's really strong.
Hearts. Souls. Minds.
Wow. Anyway, spooky action. Oh, and I didn't even answer the question. I just, like, went on a... So the answer is... our brilliant mixing engineer, Don Godwin, has been sent the tracks and is going to mix the song in the next couple weeks. And we plan to release it this spring, but we're still working on the cover art and, you know, figuring out the timing. But soon is the short answer.
It's in the works.
It is very much in the works.
Yes.
You know what time it is?
Oh, I bet I know. Do you have a accoutrement or accompaniment? Should we do it fast again? Or should we do it?
I don't
or
know.
Slow?
I never know until we're doing it. We could do it slow.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to be a long night.
We could do it in a minor key. That would be like
do it.
sad.
Can you do it?
Parcel, post, a letter, drop us a line. We'll open it together at mailbag time. Send a picture, postcard, or a bottle of wine. We'll open it together at mailbag time. Tap upon your typewriter, tell us you're fine. We'll open it together at mailbag time. Taxidermy turtles or pickles and brine. We'll open it together at mailbag time. Then it's happy at the end.
Because it's mailbag time.
All right, it's mailbag time. We have a few exciting packages this week. I know. I thought we weren't going to have anything, and then all this mail came.
Okay.
Okay, so the first thing we're going to open is, I don't know. I'm looking at you.
It's a tube.
It's a tube.
I don't know who it's from. And I hope it's not a snake.
I hope it's a snake.
Nope, snake. Oh.
Is it a telescope? Is it a nightstick?
Oh, it's a beautiful thing.
Ooh, is it? Oh, it's a beautiful thing. What is it? Oh, it's from Eve and Greg, a special gift for Jeff and Elliot. Oh, look at that. It is a print of the Great Witch. I'm trying to not get the reflection. Baba Yaga in her workshop.
Oh, that's so amazing.
That is so cool. And the artist's name
is Nicole Paisaniello.
And yes, the art of Nicole. Oh yeah, you got that too.
Yeah.
Oh, she's got a crow on her
Very,
logo.
very
Thank you,
amazing.
Even Greg.
Thanks,
This is so cool. I love this version of her. And she's got a little, I don't know if you can see it, but she's got a little mouse here, which I assume has had its head transplanted.
Of
course.
Wow, that's awesome. I'm gonna have to hang some pictures in this space.
Yeah, we need some more hangers or frames. What are they? Oh,
I'm just handing it over to you to put in a safe place. Okay. Box number 2.
oh, show this came.
Half Disaster.
Half Disaster.
Okay.
That could be a cocktail name.
Yeah, the half.
It's already started.
Here, I'm gonna I'll let you do it. You know how it works.
This is one of 2 disasters that came in the mail.
Madeline asks, is mixing tracks like mixing drinks? It is a lot like mixing drinks. Mixing tracks, you have like a lot of different things, and it's partly about like the balance among all the elements, and it's partly about a certain je ne sais quoi, and making sure each of the elements like stands out and also like blends with the others. And
in some genres of music, there's sampling, and in mixing drinks,
sampling right now.
Yeah, see. I don't know what this is. Just want to make sure all the. You read the instructions.
Okay, the instructions say. Oh, it's from the National Gallery of Art. Oh.
Oh.
This is going to help us hide our safe.
Look at this.
Look
this
at
is,
that. They're beautiful Rothko
Rothko postcards.
That is so great. So in our song Days Are Numbered, we do talk about removing a Rothko from the wall, which some people think is funny because they're really giant in real life. These are really beautiful reproductions.
And look,
And
National Gallery pencil sharpener.
Pencil sharpener.
That's so cool.
We could use that pencil sharpener.
Sure.
Who's it from? Is there a card?
No, I don't know.
Are you sure? All right. Well,
I don't know.
I don't see
Gallery
any
shops.
message or anything. If you sent us these miniature Rothkos, fess up so that we can say thank you.
This is number 2.
We love these.
This is number 2.
Oh, I see. Bless you. Oh, I see. It wasn't half disaster.
It's one of 2 disasters.
That makes more sense.
I wonder what this could be.
Convenient heist size. That is so thoughtful. Also, if we were to build like a dollhouse or something, you could throw one of these on the wall of the dollhouse.
This is a Rothko rolled up.
Cool.
So great.
So great. Thank you. And I believe that this is from Katie and Minion.
So, thank you.
Thank you, Katie and Minion. Although if we're wrong about that, please correct us. And
but at least take the compliment anyway.
Rothko
off
the wall.
Yeah. We're gonna hang some stuff.
Yeah, we can put it there. We can put the Rothko behind the curtain. Yeah.
Behind the curtain.
Mm-hmm. Okay. There's at least one more.
There's 2. Well, yeah.
All right.
1.5 more.
All right. So this one is from my parents, and I'm actually not sure if this is technically a mailbag item. When I talked to my mom the other day, she asked me what the address was for sending mailbag. But this does, and I told her to send it to me, but to say Charming Disaster on the envelope. But it doesn't say Charming Disaster on the envelope. However, my father's handwriting is the handwriting. This is really well taped.
It must be your dad.
Yeah, my dad is really good at taping stuff. So it's my dad's handwriting on the envelope. So I'm imagining that maybe some communication wasn't communicated.
He's good at mixtapes too.
Yeah, no,
all kinds of tape.
They have a lot of talents, both of my parents, and
maybe this is some private gift.
It might be a private gift. Sometimes my mom gives me underpants, like moms do. But we're about to find out, and it's
silky.
No, it's red fishnets. For when we do stage shows again and we wear red, I will have matching fishnets. Thank you, Mom.
Where's mine, Mom?
My mom gets me all of my best fishnets, and I see this as a nod toward a future time when we're doing live shows again and people can see our legs.
That's lovely.
Because,
yeah.
Also, I was half right about the underwear thing. Thank you, Mom and Dad, who helped mail this.
All right, there's one more thing.
Live shows with legs. Okay.
Now, this is a present to ourselves. We ordered the latest
issue of Hellbore magazine.
Hellbore magazine.
Hellbore magazine. This UK publication. It is all things witches. And it says at the stamp here, witches still live, which is really cool. All right.
I just want to see what the cover looks like.
It's a very nice, satisfying size. In Europe, they do proportions correctly. The Yuletide special.
Oh, is it still a Yule over there? There's a
Still
time
Yule.
difference.
Look at this beautiful.
Oh, that is
They
beautiful.
have the best graphic design. That's kind of why I got it.
Cool. Hellbore magazine.
Yes. So cool. I
So
recommend
cool.
it to anyone interested in witches and art.
Cool.
Great.
All right. Well, that was mailbag time. We have we have one more song, and then we're gonna release you into the night.
Oh, we're going late.
The inky void. Yeah, we're going a little late, but we're like in the.
Who minds? No one minds. No one minds.
All right. So let's see. A couple of announcements. We have a wonderful guest joining us next week, Catherine Fahey, who is a cranky maker. If you're not familiar with crankies,
Doesn't mean she's grumpy.
doesn't mean she's very nice. We met with her.
She's a maker who's pleasant.
What she makes is these paper cut and shadow puppet moving picture art story puppet shows, and they're very lovely. And she's gonna come on the show, and we're gonna play one of her.
Yeah.
We're gonna show one of her crankies, and we're gonna talk to her about her art. So that is next week's show.
Yes.
Other announcements. If you came in late and you missed the part about this being a donation-based show, this is a fun part.
Do the red one.
I'll do the red. Okay, the orange one.
Orange one.
All right. So if you're able to support the show with a donation, here are several different ways to do that, including Bandcamp, which is where you can get music and merch. We have T-shirts and bandanas and sheet music and all kinds of cool stuff. So if you don't already have all this stuff, go there and you can buy something and support the show and get something cool. Or you can just send us.
Or you could just hang out and watch the show.
Right. Just hanging out and watching the show and being in the chat and sharing this time with us is really the thing that we care about the very most.
That's true.
Yeah, it's true. We do always go over time. What are you going to do? Yeah. All right. Well, thanks. That's very kind. Other announcements. We both got vaccination appointments. Appointments. Not till the end of May, but we now know when we will be vaccinated, which helps us plan for future in-person stuff. And we hope that all of you who are eligible are able to get appointments, and all of you who are not yet eligible are eligible very, very soon. We hope everybody gets a job really soon. End of May is when we get ours.
You're speaking with a Boston accent. Job gets a jab.
Gets a jab.
Gets a jab.
Yes, a shot in the arm. Thank you so much to all of you for being here with us tonight and in the last months and the last year now. A great big thank you to henchperson Dan for helping behind the scenes, pulling the strings of our marionettes. Where are the marionettes? Yes.
There he is.
Just doing my part.
Thank you, Dan.
Disembodied head himself.
You are a disembodied head. All right, away with ye. And thank you so much to Dr. Brandy Schillace for joining us. We're going to pop you back on screen.
Hello.
Oh, hi.
Hey.
You know I have hellebores in my garden. Just
Oh. Of course you do.
Of course you do. They're poisonous.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, and everybody has to go follow you now. So, yeah, all right. And you go back into the void as well. And that means that it's time to draw our oracle card, and then we're going to play you out with one last song. If I can find the oracle card.
Where is the pointy oracle beast?
It's here.
Ah.
All right, it's time for the Oracle of the Unicorns. These cards that we received accidentally in the mail, which we choose every week to determine the course of our immediate future.
You choose.
And I'll choose. And every week we send whatever card gets picked to some lucky merch purchaser. We're running out of cards. When we run out of cards, we'll stop doing the show. Because the apocalypse will hopefully be over by then. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good one.
All right. Oh, that's nice. We have selected the compassion unicorn.
Very important.
Compassion. It's a little hard to tell what's going on in this picture. Compassion usually involves, another being. And it looks like this unicorn is alone in this card, but...
Maybe it's the embodiment of...
Maybe.
Compassion.
Oh, it is actually, the small print clarifies. The small print. Do you want to read the small print? Haha, I'm just kidding. You can't read the small print.
Compassion, remember? Compassion.
Be gentle with yourself. Forgiveness will set you free. See the light in yourself and others. So, this is a be compassionate to yourself unicorn card.
Mm-hmm. Even if you're just a disembodied thing.
Yeah. Wow. Time to play one last song, and we saw this come up in the requests earlier. So.
It's a good thing we knew how to play.
It is. It's a good thing.
Nice and slow.
Phosphorescent lilies on the surface of the water, forming floating constellations round the caravan. Egyptians rule the marshlands, they can read them like the lines that trace the future in the creases of your palm. They might not let us go, there will be royalty. The queen adopts her prisoners into the ancient clan. If we submit to their initiation rites and we survive, they'll make us part of all their secret plan. They say, if you want to stay, there is a price to pay, a sacrifice to make. What will you cast away? Cast away. Round the circle goes a flask, and hand to hand the pipe is passed, until we almost can't remember who we are. Fireflies conspire with the lanterns on the fishing boats to let us float among the drunken stars. We didn't mean to come here, but we never want to go back home. The children throw us silver after every song. We'll learn to ply the waterways and serenade the cormorants. We'll roll our cuffs and let our hair grow long. They say, if you want to stay, there is a price to pay, a sacrifice to make. What will you cast away? They say,
would you give up your pinky finger?
Stay.
A roof over your head?
Hey.
Your great-great-grandmother's wedding ring? Or
Hey.
your comfortable bed?
They say,
Would you lose that precious memory
stay.
of your first true love?
Hey.
Your house, your home, your family,
Hey.
your faith in God above,
They say,
a tooth, an eye, a kidney,
stay.
your future unborn babe,
Hey.
the last 10 years of your short life.
Hey.
What will you cast away?
light jars sing as fiddle bows beat fiddle strings. The music's in a tongue we don't yet understand. Firefly, jazz with blooms intoxicate. The choice was never ours to make. We're dizzy, but we know we're safe. 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 We know we're safe. We're dizzy, but we know we're safe. We're dizzy, but the dancers smile and take us by the hand. Good night.
Good night.
We love you.
We love you, and we'll see you next week.